ever since I've moved to Pearland 20 years ago, this is what I was hoping when they built the Bass Pro that something like this would eventually come in. The conference hotel and stuff, are y'all negotiating with anybody now?
No, we have a placeholder for the city. That'd be a city-led project.
Okay.
We're working closely with Matt Buchanan and his team, and I think they'll kick off that process soon.
Okay. I think it's great. I'm excited. I really am. I think this is a great project.
I know that Mr. Buchanan with Economic Development has been looking at this for some time now. I think it works. It's absolutely a destination spot that's going to help Pearland, a place where the residents can go to work, play, be there for a while. Spectrum is there now with the park. It's already rumbling in the community about what's next on this dirt. So I think this is be a great addition to Pearland.
Okay, my feedback's going to be more towards a mom who has 3 kids all over the spectrum. I feel like I'm always leaving Pearland to go to the main event in Webster, and I hate that. Actually, I have a party this Thursday for graduation, and they told me they have project graduation there, and I think we desperately need something like that here. We're always going to outside of Pearland to go somewhere like Memorial City Mall. They have a really great outdoor restaurant. They have the ice skating rink, which is always busy. And I feel like we're always traveling somewhere for sports tournaments, baseball, gymnastics, you name it, never in Pearland. So I like the idea of combining this area. I will say, I know this isn't the final, but the hotel conference center, I would like that they'd have a pool, because I don't think any moms or dads are going to book a hotel there without a pool if they're staying. Outside of that, I really like the concept, and I do think that us parents and all the things that we do, we would like a place to go to relax, and there's not a lot in Pearland. You have to Uber somewhere, and I don't like that. So I would really like to see that nighttime, place that you can go and relax, and it's a nice setup. So that's my only feedback. I really like the ideas
Love
that
your
you have.
comments, and that's exactly what I think of in terms of a free family social club.
Yeah.
You can just hang out with your friends and the
Yes.
kids all eat there and play.
Yeah, the one thing I do notice at Memorial City Mall is they're always playing football or soccer in the green space in between the restaurants that are kind of outside. So that's just my feedback. And of course, I'm rooting for some type of main event type of facility to come to Pearland, because we do go there a lot.
I don't want to name names, but you'll have something like that here.
Okay, that would be great. Thank you.
Hi, thank you for your time. What is the percentage of retail versus residential and commercial that you're looking at?
It doesn't really, we don't think of it in terms of, I think, percentages. I'm not, I mean, I could do the calculation on it, but retail as it sits there is probably 100, maybe 120,000 square feet of space. It just depends. We're hoping that we'll get, as it matures. If you watch City Center, and I watched City Center. I used to live over in that area, and the developers were friends of mine. But I watched it for a long time, and these projects, not different from some of my own, but they mature, and they evolve, and the tenant mix evolves and changes. And I've seen the quality of their retail continue to evolve upward, and I think that will be the case here. That we're hoping that this attracts the people like the Warby Parkers and the fun little shops that will really that follow something that's heavy on the food and beverage side. The food and beverage side is really, really key, and what we're trying to do is to bring as many concepts that are just not represented here. I mean, the types, you know, sit down, you know, active oriented, big patios, that sort of thing. We will have some chains, but trying not to feel chain-like. Is that, again, one of the evolutions is that, you know, there's been a demand for more original, less chain-like restaurants.
Thank you. And I should back up and say I am fully in favor of this type of a development in Pearland, because I agree with Commissioner that we need something like that in our area, because you have to travel. You have to go to City Center, or you have to go to Discovery Park, or you have to go somewhere else to get some of the amenities that you're talking about. So I'm fully in favor of that. I just had a couple of questions. Now, I think earlier you said that you will own all of this. So does that mean you will have full control over the type of materials that are used in the project to ensure some consistency?
Well, we'll have full control of the materials either way.
Okay.
That's imperative. And if you look, what I didn't say, we're on our 160th plus project. We've made a lot of successes, a lot of failures, a lot of, oh gosh, we'll never do that again kind of things. But you'll see all of our projects, we control the materials, and so whether or not we own all the pieces, it won't matter. But we do have our own internal housing division. So we're 160 plus people at NewQuest. We're vertically integrated. We've got in-house architects and engineers. Paul is a civil engineer, had a development manager, attorney, you name it, we have it. But so we'll probably do all the housing internally, certainly all the retail, entertainment. Some of these concepts will build their own. We may lease them the land and then they'll build, or we'll do a build-to-suit for them. The hotel convention center, we've never built one. We certainly are going to throw our hat in the ring of potentially building that part as well. So we'll do most of the pieces.
Okay. And I think my last question is, how do you envision that this will meld with the rest of the community? Because I understand there's some multifamily that will be going in behind there. There's a lot of empty land around, and maybe that's more for staff to answer, but I know as a property owner or even a renter, I would not want to rent on Beltway 8 and 288. So I'm kind of confused there on how you envision that will look.
Sure. Well, if you notice, the multifamily is back and away from both highways, just from an aesthetic and from a traffic noise standpoint. But this is urban-like housing. It's multi-story. It's 4 to 5 story. It sits right up on the street, so it's a very walkable. It's not garden style multifamily. The city won't allow that here, and it's not what would be successful. The Ivy district, I believe that there's a project that's a piece of that hopefully is going to start fairly soon, and we welcome that. We like that. So the more housing, more quality housing that we can get that provides, again, more shoppers, more energy, the better it is for us, balancing, the uses and the quality. What will it do for the adjacencies? I think what it's going to do is it's going to be a catalyst. I think for the Lower Kirby district, we're going to be basically that amenity set of restaurants and services that if you office over there, build your plant over there, your employees are all going to want to eat there. So that's what we hope, that we'll be a catalyst for everything around us. We'd like to buy up more land, in other words, too.
I enjoyed the presentation, and as you were discussing it, I wrote down several things that I wanted to comment on. First being with your multifamily development, the number of bedrooms. I've noticed for when some projects come in, they speak on having more one-bedrooms than additional bedrooms, and I just want to make sure that people are thinking about the culture we're in now, where we're doing a lot of remote work, and that more bedrooms are the preference now, as well as with hotels. I've done a little research and noticed that newer hotels are noticing that they need multi-beds versus just that king bed option that allows for more people to come in. So just wanting to make sure that you make note of things such as those that would be preferences for people when coming in. As far as the residences and the hotels are concerned. As far as the restaurants and bars and different uses for the area, I love the fact that it's going to be walkable. It's putting me in the mind frame of a Baybrook Mall area or Memorial City, which I think it's great. I love the green space. But I'd be remiss if I didn't mention our 51% non-alcohol use that's needed. So when you talk about nighttime usage and things past 10 p.m., I think you're gonna have to be strategic in what you place here and what type of restaurants they're gonna be, because that's a hurdle that you have to overcome concerning we have more sales that are needed for non-alcohol, that 51% in order to get drinks in there. So, and I know that you mentioned you wanted to do a 16-hour day use. So just in terms of how our city operates, we can compare them to other cities, but we have to be mindful of what we're working with here. And I think in terms of the types of restaurants and bars that you would consider putting in, those are things that you're gonna have to think about. I love the location, and I also thought about what would your signage look like coming in to making sure that you're attracting the people that are passing 288. But overall, love what you're doing, but just think that you should really think about the type of restaurants, what times are those gonna close to get you that 16-hour ultimate usage that you're trying to get. Thank you.
Great comments, suggestions. First of all, on the housing, we've built or building just a really fantastic multifamily development team. Our leader has 30 years of experience. Actually came from Suba, who's going to be building the Ivy project right across the street. And we'll do an extensive survey and figure out what that mix of units should be. But I agree with you that rental housing is changing right before our eyes. It no longer, I should say, it is evolving to where it doesn't have the negative stigma that it used to have. People need flexibility in their housing, and so there's a lot of projects that are rental housing, or single family rental housing that are being developed now around the Houston area. But I do think there's a need for 2s and 3 bedrooms and so forth. And this site is a 12-minute commute to the medical center, and Pearland has more medical center employees than any other bedroom community. So we recognize that we've mapped it. We know how we have a pretty good sense in talking with the TMC about how many residents work there. And so I think we have the ability to really attract more high quality residents when they realize they could live here rather than living in a area near the med center that has no amenities. And you could live here in your 12-minute commute. So that's what we're trying to create. In terms of the alcohol, we had a pleasant surprise. So we thought that, again, we thought it was a 51-49%, that Pearland was a 51-49% city. And when we engaged the beverage consultant, informed us that the state law changed when they changed the laws relative to takeout and delivery of food during COVID, if you remember what the governor pushed through. Attached to that bill was a 60-40 bill. So all cities were 51-49 are now 60-40, and the city attorneys confirmed that. And it's even more so, the 60% can be of gross sales, not just food versus beverage. So some of our users, we spent a lot of time with the family entertainment concepts, for example, and it really helps when it's all receipts rather than just food versus beverage, because they can make that work. And so we came to the conclusion that at least at this point, we don't need a beverage consultant that would help us maybe do a local election to get, 100%, if you would, to accommodate bars. We know we can't have just an outright bar, and that's okay. But I think with all of the users that we've talked to, and I see users, I mean restaurants, food and beverage folks, they can operate within that 60-40. So we feel really good about that. And then the open carry aspect is just fantastic. It really makes a project like this work. Without it, it's really hard.
And Jay, real quick, just to piggyback on that, just to make sure that we hammer the 60 versus the 40, it can be 60% beverage, 40% other. So that really made a big swing, and I think it got codified in state law, even not just the executive orders, but then in state law in the last session. So yeah, thank you.
Just to wrap up from the P&Z portion, and thank you for your presentation, by the way. You apparently drew the short straw not going to Las Vegas with the ICSC.
I did.
I mean, the first comment is wow on a few notes. But for me, from a personal standpoint, we're being on the CPAC, the comprehensive plan that we're working on. These are the things we talked about, and I believe you could go back to the citizens' inputs, and this mirrors a lot of their inputs and responses to the website, and I'm seeing yeses, so that's a good thing. It's multi-use, it's mixed use. Those are, it's desirable product, and I saw Matt's head wave a few times. Mr. Buchanan, I'm believing he's in full support of the product. I know the devil's in the details, but I think we could say that's a thumbs up. And you were kind enough to take us on a bus trip. The planning and zoning, some of the council members, or I believe the mayor was on that bus trip, and we talked about this area, and he told us about things that might be coming or this or that, and it sounded great. The multifamily, from a positive standpoint, and I'm listing my pros here, from a positive standpoint, these are in HISD, so the school districts won't be concerned that you have 1,200 units in Pearland and Alvin. So I do think that's a positive for the school districts themselves, if that would have been a negative even. From the cons side, for what they're worth, this is an entry to the city, and it does have a lot of multifamily. My only concern, or my biggest concern, is that we've had, and I'm certainly not saying you would do this, so please don't take that way. I wouldn't disparage you at all like that. New Quest is a fine organization. Multifamily, 1,200 units. I certainly would prefer a phasing, and I know you mentioned phasing. I got a little lost on which side we were speaking of. But what I would completely dislike for the city to enter into an agreement, and as we did with the corner of McHard and Cullen, where we were promised a lot of commercial and multifamily, and the multifamily was built first, and I think one other building, and we're still waiting. And will that day ever come? I guess we'll have to wait till McHard gets built out, and a few years later, perhaps it'll happen. So I certainly would like to see it first, or as a phasing with some, is contingency is the right word. And I heard you say in your presentation about 1,200 units. I know in the PD we need to be specific, because about 1,200 could be 1,500, if that even matters. But about 1,200 you may have meant to be, maybe we'll get there, maybe we won't. So maybe some stronger language in the actual PD document. The last comment from a cons, and it's definitely not this specific product, but just the geography itself. Freeway interchanges many times don't lend themselves to great developments like this. Sometimes they do. Many times they do. But the reason Town Center went to the south, 2 exits down, was because of the difficulty between being on the Beltway and 288. And I think this program, or what they've developed here, this development probably would negate that. 2 things would negate it. Number one, you have some of the uses that they're speaking of. I think that is a draw, a bigger draw than the town center, if I can say that. And secondly, with our cell phones and GPS, it's no longer local traffic only that knows how to get in and out of there. So perhaps that's a dead issue in itself. And I don't need comments. I appreciate your thorough presentation. Council, I'm sure y'all are ready to talk. So thank you.
Yeah, we do need to move forward and make sure we get council comments. We do have our city council meeting immediately after this, and we're going to be a little late starting that. With that, I do want to turn it to council for questions, comments, and concerns. And if we can, maybe we keep our comments directly focused on here, and we can kind of get through this fairly quickly and get on with our other meetings. So we'll start with, you want to start this way? Are you good? Okay. Any other has questions, comments? Okay. Member Hernandez, go ahead.
Thank you, Mayor. So I've got a general concept of where the trail system's coming in on the Ivy side of this, but how are we going to integrate this? Have you thought that through?
Right.
I'm just curious.
Yeah. No, the trail system's essential. I mean, it is a walkable project, and we want to connect with the trail system, and so you can walk to the park.
Is it going to go across spectrum? Is that what you're anticipating? Okay. Yeah, I just general comments. Love it. Think this is great. Something I'd love to see. And about the multifamily, I think this would be a great place to live. I could just walk to the grocery store and get all my shopping done, stuff like that. So thanks for the questions. I just wanted to see the better integration of our trail system, because that's going to be a huge part of our city's future. So I appreciate that.
Agreed.
Member Barry?
Yeah, thanks a bunch. I appreciate all the information. I just had one question. What are your anticipated average rents for something like this?
For the multifamily?
Yeah.
Well, we're still running our numbers, but it's probably going to take $2 to $2.25 rents to make it work. It will get phased, because the market won't support 1,200 units all at once. This is we build projects. We have projects that we've been developing over 10, 15-year period. New Braunfels, others. I mean, they just grow, and you don't want to bring stuff on before it's ready. The worst thing you can have is an unsuccessful piece. So I think the multifamily part's going to take us a few years to bring all that online, but it is, to build this kind of product, it takes rents that are at the very top edge of Pearland's current multifamily market.
You mentioned that the event center and conference center was critical to this development altogether. Do you have any plans or outlook for the conference center, and how's that timeline going to align with your development?
Well, we're long-term holders. We don't look at things over a 3 or 4 or 5 year period. We're looking at the 20-year horizon, and so we're going to carry this project for a while, because that whole second phase is going to take us a while to bring it online. And I know the hotel and convention center is not going to come online until their market study supports it. But it is an essential component of this, and as is, I think, the field house. All of these come together, and it's going to mature and season, and it will just get better and better with time. But if it went elsewhere, it would be a huge loss for us.
Just a quick comment. I've been around for 5 years on council now. I've seen the evolution of this concept. I'm glad it's coming out of the hopper now and starting to take some shape. I think it addresses several needs of Pearland, and they've been talked about: a sports arena, hotel conference center, some nighttime entertainment. So I'm glad to see it coming to fruition, and I wish you the best of luck. I won't be talking about it much in the future other than watching it as a citizen. So good luck.
Thank you.
Member Camcar?
Jay, thanks for coming down. Very much appreciate it. I would much rather be in Vegas than I would be here. So at a party, having a good time, but this is work. So on this diagram, where exactly did you say your first phase was?
Or what?
Your first phase was that you guys are anticipating
So
this junction?
that north-south spine there, it'd be everything to the east of that north-south spine. But we would do all the dirt work, and all the underground would all go at once. More than
So east of the public drive or just east of the spectrum?
no, east of the that I can't remember the name of that.
Oh, this
Yeah.
Parkview Terrace?
Yeah, north. So everything east of that.
Okay, got it.
So the specialty grocer, one multifamily project, and a pretty fair chunk of the food and beverage, and at least 2 entertainment concepts, if not more.
And then do you need to phase any of the dirt work or any of the other utilities, or is that site pretty much ready on most of that?
So the dirt work is going to take a foot of fill, so we'll do all the dirt work at one time, and then and y'all correct me if I'm wrong, and then probably all the main underground all at once as well.
Okay. And do you guys have a peg on the amount of public-private dollars that you need right now?
We're still working on that with Matt.
All right. And then do you have a total build-out, though, on the construction side? It sounds like you guys are going to own and operate and build most of this. Do you guys have a number on the total outlay on y'all's side?
I mean, this is just our initial pass at overall value. It's 300 million plus.
And that's over time. That's not obviously day one.
Over time, yeah.
Okay. I think everybody else has said it, that there's a need here. Commissioner Heinrichs has said it. My wife is a mother of 3 under 4, and we are going into the city for a lot of things, probably too many things, to be frank. I think there's a defined sentiment of what is NewQuest's dollars into the deal and how much is Pearland dollars in the deal. The beautiful thing is Matt is a wizard with the numbers, and money just pops out of anywhere whenever it's ready, which is a wonderful thing. We also have P&D 1. We also have City of Pearland. But I think that there's an extreme sensitivity. How much are you putting in day one? How much are we putting in day one? All right, so I just want to reiterate that one more time. There's sensitivity on that issue.
Sure, right.
And then I think the other item is with regards to the conference center. We've talked about it, and we talked about it before I got here. We'll talk about it after I'm here, most likely. But I think if that is coming sidecar, not later, that'd make me feel a lot better about this. What ends up happening is private industry gets their thing, and then we're lucky if we see it 6 years later on our thing. And I think there's an extreme sensitivity on that. And so I just hope that in the negotiations that ensue, that those items are addressed appropriately.
And we want it as fast as it makes sense. Because it's an essential piece, and I think we will make it more successful, and it will make our project more successful.
And I think with all of if you guys can get a development agreement with PMD 1 and private industry is the builder on that, everybody knows private industry is fast, efficient, gets through things, government stuff, there's bureaucracy in it. The faster and more efficient we can get this online, it drives all of the other items near pro forma. So I would just put that out there. So, all right, thank you.
Member Koza?
Yes, Jay, thanks for coming out and presenting this evening. I'd kind of like to reiterate what Member Camcar said as far as the hotel complex and the convention center, as well as the sports complex. Those are sensitive issues within our community as far as the dollars spent on that. Regarding the sports complex, are you looking for regional or past regional participation as far as bringing people into the sports complex?
Well, to be clear, the sports complex is not our project.
Right.
It's a city. It's a MAT project, and it would be during the week. It would be local. My understanding would be local amateur athletes, and then on the weekends it would accommodate the traveling shows. Which one of the members mentioned that there, I mean, if you have an athlete that's on a club team, you're traveling to Midland and Dallas and you name it. And so these facilities are booked typically all year long with traveling tournaments. So it's a tremendous neighbor for us, not only for just the during the week traffic. Again, it's local, regional traffic. And then it's that weekend, which helps. It all helps the food and beverage, and it all works.
Right. I understand as far as having, because to me, looking at it and having kids grow up in the volleyball community, a 16 court would pretty much be a regional facility. You wouldn't get people from outside the city because you just don't have enough courts to be able to pull something like that off. As far as a practice facility and something within the city of Houston, you could probably have something along that lines. But as far as outside the city, it's fairly small. That's my comments.
All right. Jay, thank you for coming out tonight. I have just a couple questions relative to both the indoor sports facility as well as the hotel conference center. What does this project look like? We see what it looks like with them. What does it look like without them?
I'd be worried. Again, I think these are all projects like this. They have kind of components that when you bring them all together, it becomes magic. And again, as I've looked at hundreds of projects around the country, to have a hotel, a good flag together with that conference center, that with a conference center that is flexible and can be booked for live music and venues that might be tied in with the sports complex across the way, and then the sports complex. And we've toured multiple sports complexes. That could be the best. That could really be the best anchor of the whole project, quite honestly, because you'll have multiple families coming all the time, and we look for uses that just provide stickiness, that marry a community to a project. And if we really do our job together with the sports complex and the convention center and so forth, we got you. You're gonna come here every week. So it's essential.
Okay. Obviously, the devil's in the details of all of that as we move down this road. I think you've got some good feedback, not only from planning and zoning as well as council. This is probably the last major corner left in Pearland. Obviously, the wow factor needs to be something special. We want it to be something special. I think a mixed use is when Hogan McEwen was looking at it 15 plus years ago, obviously they wanted a mixed use and it didn't happen. Now that we've moved forward in time, the time is probably now to actually see something happen here. So we do look forward to the next steps. Obviously, we'll be going through development agreements and next steps on the plan development and everything else. And so I think you've got a lot of good feedback tonight. We do thank you for coming, and we look forward to more comments and questions in the future. And I know you've got a short timeline with the property owner. And I think we at the city will do what we can to work with you and help get through some of that timeline as we move forward. So it's been a good experience tonight. I am going to adjourn this workshop at 6:38. And if everybody would just give council 5 minutes, since we've been going since 5 o'clock, give us 5 minutes and we will be right back, and we'll start promptly here in 5 minutes. Thank you.